Hello, Whovians, and a very, very happy Christmas to all of you. I'm very. It's been a marvelous day, hasn't it? I mean, I would imagine a lot of Doctor Who fans have had a marvelous Christmas day. I mean, if they haven't, then clearly the Doctor hasn't saved you, or clearly the Doctor hasn't come by your doorstep on Christmas Day, which I think the Doctor should really, because he's a legend on Christmas Day. But yes. Welcome to the Who Universe Christmas special this year, and I'm very excited because for the first time since 2017, we're finally talking about a new Christmas special of Doctor Who, which is very exciting. And man, it feels like ages, doesn't it? Since the last time we've done a Christmas special review on Christmas Day. I mean, it feels like forever since we've been in a situation like this. Because I mean, the last time we reviewed a Christmas special on Christmas Day, Peter Capaldi just left his was basically regenerated into Jodie Whittaker, and Jodie Whittaker was about to take off, and then obviously she's had some good episodes. She had a bit of a rocky road when it came to the ratings, but gradually they've picked it back up now with David Tennant returning early in last month for the 60th anniversary. And there might be a possibility of him returning for spin-offs in the future now that his Doctor hasn't completely disappeared. But we'll see what happens there. We don't want to. We'll discuss about that down the road. We're going to obviously focus on Shooty Gatwa because Shooty Gatwa, I personally believe, was the star of the show. I mean, he's the star of this Christmas special because I mean, this entire Christmas special was basically focusing on his arrival to Doctor Who. And I mean, if you haven't watched Sex Education, you probably would have known or by now how brilliant the guy is. I mean, I've only just started watching Sex Education. I mean, I've watched a few episodes before his arrival. I have to say, he's such a belter in Sex Education. What a great casting find that they were able to get somebody like that. I mean, I know Sex Education is obviously. I mean, it's a very common comedy. I mean, it's meant to be drama, but it's a lot of comedy in there, and it's just such a but they must have had a cracking time filming it. Even though they finished wrapping up filming for it this year, which they had to say goodbye to it because obviously Shooty's now part of Doctor Who. Yeah, he had a fun time making that, and then obviously now he's playing the Doctor, and he brings the energy that he brought to Sex Education into this episode, and oh boy, I'm very excited about what next year's going to bring, especially with the energy that he brought into this episode. It's just fantastic. But yeah, so we might as well get into the Church of Ruby Road. So the whole concept of this story is essentially, we're going with this thing that Russell T Davies has been, well, apparently he thought of this idea when he first came into the Doctor Who world. I believe it was sometime in the 90s. I can't remember the exact year, but sometime in the 90s when he was getting started in being a part of the Doctor Who community, he essentially came up with this audio drama for the seventh Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, where he talks about essentially a baby being abandoned on Christmas Eve. And he came up with this whole concept of this whole storyline. And it was basically a seventh Doctor audio that came out many years ago, and people were so impressed with that idea that Russell kind of decided to bring that idea forward into the story, The Church on Ruby Road, for the new companion. So essentially, Millie Gibson's character, Ruby Sunday, is essentially abandoned on Christmas Eve, and obviously we don't know who the mother is because she just walked away from the baby. She's hooded and everything. So we know it's a woman. It's just a question of who it is. Will we know by the time by the time Millie Gibson leaves? Maybe. We don't know. Maybe it's going to be a situation like Amy Pond, where we eventually find out who her parents were, or who her mother was. Eventually, we'll get round to it, or maybe it's going to be something that just happens years down the line. Maybe it happens naturally throughout the next series. Who knows? But it's going to be one of those talking points when it comes to Ruby Sunday as to who is her parents, who's her mother, who was her father, etc. We're going to be getting a lot of those questions within the next year, and I'm sure a lot of fans are going to be speculating as to who that woman could be. So and then of course we see a vicar, obviously taking in the baby because obviously it was Christmas Eve. Obviously the vicar is in charge of church services and stuff. They always do that on Christmas Eve. That's always a tradition for them. Then, of course, we come to present day where we see Ruby obviously all grown up into a young woman, of course. She's meeting Davina McCall, doing the Lost Families program, even though they can't use it because of copyright, because of ITV, but they kind of did a sort of a similar version of it for the episode, and it's really lovely to see Davina McCall, because Davina McCall must have been dreaming for years to be in Doctor Who, and it's just great to see her there because she's such a great laugh. I mean, you probably have seen Davina McCall on ITV and Channel 4 with all the comedy, all the fun she does on Masked Singer and all these other programs that she's been involved with over the years. And Davina McCall has been a huge talking point for a lot of roles that she's had in the TV industry, and it's just great to see her, doing stuff like this in Doctor Who. And yeah, she had a very fun time, and it certainly feels like she had a very fun time. And then obviously throughout the story, we see this whole concept of bad luck that seems to be following Ruby Sunday and also Davina McCall as well. And obviously, and the coolest thing about the Billy Gibson part was that we see Shooty Gatwa's Doctor sort of fitting in with the environment, the fact that he was dancing with people. It kind of almost felt like I was watching a sex education episode in Doctor Who and seeing him like be almost like he was bringing elements of his character Eric into the role, which is really really strange for me to say that, especially given that this is meant to be a person who doesn't really interact with humans as much, but the fact that he's being this character who's being this version of the Doctor who likes to dance around and likes to, have a bit of fun from time to time. It almost feels a little bit like Matt Smith a little bit, and it's really cool that he's like interacting with it, and it's just yeah, I hope he does more of this because it really makes me think it's just really cool that he does that because it makes you like love him more as the 15th Doctor. It makes him connect with the people a lot more. And then of course throughout the story they eventually meet the Doctor and obviously Ruby Sunday. They eventually meet as Ruby Sunday. Obviously, the Doctor tries to save Ruby Sunday's life from, obviously from pub where obviously, saving her life when it came to, the pub, they have the whole situation where something got unplugged. Because obviously we see like little hints and teasers to goblins messing things around and everything. And then obviously we see the Doctor obviously encounter Ruby Sunday in a taxi and encountering that there's a decoration snowman about to fall off, and then he sees a goblin on top of the roof, and then obviously a policeman tries to interact with the Doctor saying, I need to take a report, and it's just really funny how he interacts with the policeman and say like, oh, I'm just passing by and everything, and he's shooting at where literally brought the energy. You knew he was basically in charge for this entire story. And then of course we finally get to the moment where we see obviously we come to Christmas Eve where Ruby Sunday's obviously just come back from a shopping trip where she was getting eggs for a foster mom. And they're trying to get things ready for Christmas Day, and obviously they knew the shops were closed, so it was a bit of it was a bit, obviously they wanted to make sure they got things in for Christmas. And then of course the foster mom says that she's about to receive another baby delivery, and then obviously from there the goblins obviously decided to want to take the baby for food, which of course allured Ruby Sunday to the ladder that the goblins came from, to the point where we get to see Ruby and the fifth, and obviously the Doctor finally interact and began their quest to save the baby, because obviously that's what really what Ruby Sunday wanted to do, was to save the baby, to make sure that the baby, nothing happened to the baby. And of course the goblins basically want it for dinner, basically. And of course we hear the goblin song in this story as well, which you can obviously hear on BBC Sounds, and I'll leave a link to it if you want to hear the song for yourself, because they've got the full version of the song for people to listen to if you want to. It's kind of catchy, and also we get to hear a little bit of the Doctor and Ruby singing, which I thought was great to see, shooting at with Billy Gibson singing as their characters. It was so cool. I think we're going to see a lot more of it next year. Totally believe we're going to see a lot more singing to come, because I think this is just a tease of things to come when it came to the singing. Because I mean, come on, it's shooting Gatwa. Obviously, the guy can sing because he's an entertainer. He's probably sung before, so of course he's gonna probably sing at some point during the next series. And then of course and then we get to this interesting situation in the story where obviously the Doctor looks at the sky. Yeah, there's this big earthquake that came out, which obviously it was the Goblin ship. They made a crack, but yeah, so we get to this part of the story where we obviously get cracks into the wall of where the obviously Ruby was living, and it got to a situation where Ruby Sunday disappears, and obviously she realizes that the foster mother doesn't remember Ruby, and the Doctor starts getting very suspicious that Ruby's just gone. And obviously obviously it made very clear to him that he realizes that there was a bit of a timeline thing going on where the goblins went back in time to try and take Ruby as a baby as their food, as a sort of a way to fight back. And of course, the Doctor decides to go back to the day that obviously Ruby Sunday was left into the church, where obviously the goblins were taking it first. And then, of course, the Doctor finally found a way to defeat the Goblin King by using the spire on top of the church to finally get rid of the Goblin King, who was the one who was eating all the babies this entire time. And obviously, with using his special gloves, he was able to pull him down into that spire, which eventually killed off the Goblin King once and for all. When he did it, I just love how he was able to do that. He was able to use his strength to be able to defeat the Goblin King, to be able to save Ruby Sunday, and be able to bring her back into the present. And then, of course, he comes back, and of course, Ruby Sunday was curious about why the Doctor disappeared, and then also you'll notice that obviously the neighbor next door was very fond of the Doctor, and she kind of got used to the Doctor very quickly, to the point that towards the end of the episode, she says, "Have you never seen the TARDIS before?" and looks at the camera. So I'm starting to get a little suspicious about that neighbor, wondering if she knows who the Doctor is, or she's met the Doctor before. It makes me curious about what does she know about the Doctor and the TARDIS that we don't know yet. So it kind of makes me wonder, could she be a future villain, or could she be a future ally? I suppose we'll have to see now at some point during this next series where she ends up, in terms of whether we'll see more of her, whether she'll be more relevant into the next series. And then eventually we get to the part where obviously Ruby finally sees the TARDIS for the first time, and obviously the Doctor invites Ruby onto the TARDIS for the first, obviously because he needed a companion, so he chose Ruby Sunday as his new companion. And now they're finally setting off of a series of adventures, which of course we will see, this will be a bit of a surprise to you, but we're not going to be seeing the next series of Doctor Who until May 2024. Yeah, you heard me right. The BBC have announced the 2024 series of Doctor Who is not going to be airing until May. So we're basically looking at after Easter when we will see the Doctor return, which is also kind of interesting for me, because obviously May is also my birth month as well. So it's kind of strange to think that Doctor Who's going to be on my birth month next year, when we'll see him again with shooting Gatwa. And it is a little odd though that Doctor Who is not going to be a part of Easter this time around, because usually Doctor Who usually starts the series during Easter weekend, but the fact that it's not going to be a part of it makes you wonder, what else is BBC planning for Easter weekend? I hope it's going to be something good, because they need to really make Easter weekend actually worthwhile, because the Easter weekend for the last few years have been very lackluster in terms of telly. So I hope they make up for the fact that there's no Doctor Who during Easter. I hope they do. But yeah, it's interesting for them to choose a May timeline for when they're going to launch this next series of Doctor Who. So it begs the question: is it going to be the first Saturday in May, last Saturday in May, mid May? Who knows? I mean, we'll have to wait and see for now, because I mean, we've still got a few more months to wait till we find out exactly when in May we're going to see Doctor Who again. But I would imagine it's going to be the first weekend of May. It's probably going to be May Day, isn't it? It's going to be the May Day weekend. Is when we're probably going to see Doctor Who again, but we'll see if that ends up happening or not. But you never know, maybe it is. But yeah, so we've got until May now to figure, sort of wonder where things are going to go between now and May. Yeah, honestly though, I'm very, very excited. And also we got our first look at the new series as well, where we get to see the Beatles. Yes, the Beatles are finally coming to Doctor Who. Very excited about that. There's also the whole historical episode that was filmed at some point during last year. They also have scenes of them in a sort of a cliff top, which is very interesting. Makes you wonder what that's going to be all about. And then there was also these, they kind of showed some of the stuff we have seen on set, like we saw, the whole drag race winner. They were there. Yeah, we also got to see Bonnie Lamford. A little bit of Bonnie Lamford was in there with the whole bicycle, which I thought was really cool. We saw a little bit of her in the trailer. And also we see a mysterious character who was hugging the Doctor for a minute. So it could be another returning face to Doctor Who. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I just thought that was interesting. But nevertheless, that is essentially, that was mostly some of the stuff we saw in that first look at the new series of Doctor Who, which we're not going to see until May 2024. So like I said, we've got quite a few months to wait until we see Doctor Who on our screens again. And it's also interesting because it means it will probably finish maybe mid-July. Yeah, I would say it's probably going to finish maybe May, maybe end of June, beginning of July, considering it's 8 episodes. So, but yeah, maybe it might finish end of June, considering it's 8 episodes. So yeah, so it's probably going to be May into June. We're going to be seeing the series, and then from there on, they're going to focus on the sports events, which obviously is what BBC focuses on during the summer. Apart from that, really, that is pretty much it for this episode. I'm really, really chuffed about Shooting Atwood, and I'm very excited to see more of him. The only downside is we've got to wait to see more of him, which is going to be in May. At least we've got this to rewatch over Christmas, so at least we'll be able to enjoy this episode for a few more times. And obviously it's going to remain on BBC iPlayer, so we'll have quite plenty few months to enjoy the Christmas episode and the 60th anniversary until then. So that's good, and also classic Doctor Who as well. So I have a chance to rewatch those. But yeah. Apart from that, really, I hope like I said, I hope everybody's has had a great Christmas Day. I hope Christmas Day has been great, and you can also pre-order the Church of Ruby Road. There'll be links in the description for those who want to pre-order the DVD Blu-ray, ready for its release sometime in early next year, which will be our first Shooting Atwood Doctor Who DVD release until the next series. I would imagine there's going to be some Doctor Who stuff on sale, probably obviously now on Amazon and throughout the next week. There's going to probably be lots of Doctor Who discounts, so there'll be plenty of opportunities to start stocking up your Doctor Who collections if you need to. In the meantime, I will catch you all on in my next Who Universe special, which is going to be on New Year's Day, where we're going to be having a chance to take a look at the colorized episode of the Daleks, the Hartnell meeting of the Daleks in color, which we saw in the 60th anniversary. And then I'm also going to be doing an overview in the new year for the 60th anniversary, as well as an opportunity to basically review the Underwater Menace animation that just came out recently. We'll have a chance to look at the animation of the Underwater Menace and see what we think of this newly animated version. But yeah, apart from that, really, Merry Christmas, Whovians, and enjoy your the rest of your Christmas day.